Okay, you let me know. Okay, all right, you let me know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to everyone. A warm welcome to day 2 of the ASEAN Circular Economy Forum 2025. We hope you have get yourselves refreshed over the night, and those who are first time in Malaysia, we hope you have enjoyed the night in Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining in on the second day of the ASEAN Economy Forum 2025. And not only we would like to welcome you all here at the hall, for those who are joining us remotely as well, we would like to welcome you. And in a very short while, we will begin day 2 of the ASEAN Circular Economy Forum very, very soon. So please be seated, ladies and gentlemen. It is free of seating. Thank you very much. All right, looks like we're all set and ready. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I would like to welcome all of you to day 2 of the ASEAN Circular Economy Forum 2025. I am Ifran Yazid, and it is my greatest pleasure to be your MC for day 2 here at ACEF, happening at Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre. Today, we will build on day 1 of the discussion to focus on how to accelerate the circular economy transition in ASEAN. To kickstart today's program, we would like to invite the Deputy Secretary General of Ministry of Natural Resources and Environmental Sustainability, Yang Berbahagia Dato' Nur Yahati Awang. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A very good morning and salam Malaysia Madani. Ms. Saida Boukhadid, Development Cooperation Councillor, Development Cooperation Councillor, the Embassy of Denmark. Her Excellency Ambassador Paspon, Executive Director of ASEAN Centre for Sustainable Development Studies and Dialogue, ACSDSD, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning and a warm welcome to the ASEAN Circular Economy Forum, ACEF 2025. First and foremost, I wish to extend our sincere appreciation to the ASEAN Centre for Sustainable Development Studies and Dialogue for their leaderships in organizing this forum. It is an honor for Malaysia, as ASEAN Chair, to co-organize ACEF 2025, and we are deeply grateful for this partnership. I would also like to acknowledge the vital role of all stakeholders whose active participation is essential to our shared mission. Ladies and gentlemen, Malaysia as a proud signatory to the 2030 Agenda for ASEAN Sustainability Development stands firmly with the global community in our commitment to the 17 SDGs. Today, we turn our focus to a goal that demands urgent and collective action, SDG 12 on responsible consumption and production. Consider this. The world produces over 430 million tons of new plastic every year. 430 million tons, that's a lot. But less than 10% of it is effectively recycled. The rest pollutes our landscapes, clogs our rivers, and enters our oceans at an alarming rate. If we continue on this path, the total amount of plastic in the ocean could triple by 2040. This is not just an environmental crisis, but a failure of the linear take, make, dispose model. I'm sure as an expert in this, most of you are very familiar what it means when I say linear take, make, dispose model. But within this challenge lies an economic opportunity. The circular economy represents a USD 4.5 trillion global growth opportunity by 2030. For Malaysia, a key player in the global plastic industries with over 1,300 manufacturers, this transition is a strategic necessity. We must lead the shift to a system where plastic are sustainably designed, used, reused, and recycled. This is why Malaysia is committed to the negotiation for a legally binding global plastic treaty. We place our trust in the INC process and urge that the final treaty be firmly grounded in the mandate of UNIA Resolution 5/14, putting the promotion of a circular economy at its core to effectively address the full life cycle of plastic pollution. This is precisely why forums like the ACEF are critical. ACEF and the ASEAN Circular Economy Stakeholders Platform, ASEPS, serve as key regional mechanisms to accelerate ASEAN's transition to a circular economy. And I'm very happy to know that the ASEAN Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform choose to join IGEM this year, and hopefully next year IGEM we will be partners as well. ASEF function as an annual platform bringing together policymakers, the private sectors, academia, civil society, and international partners to align national and regional priorities, while ASEPS provides ongoing knowledge exchange and stakeholder engagement. And I believe because of ASEAN position in the world map, somehow all these garbage like to visit us, whether we invite them or not. Together, they bridge ASEAN socio-cultural and economic pillars, ensure policy outcomes fit into ASEAN's decision-making bodies, and strengthen cooperations across sectors and member states. Ladies and gentlemen, in Malaysia, we are moving from ambition to action. Our approach is built on 3 pillars: regulation, innovation, and collaborations. We are taking decisive steps on regulation. A key part of our strategy is tackling problematic and unnecessary single-use plastic SUP in collaboration with University Technology Malaysia. We have identified a list for phase down and eventual phase out, including plastic singlet packs, polystyrene, food packaging, straws, and disposable cutlery. Recently, in April 2025, the federal and state government agreed to put a no plastic bag starting 1st January 2026. Malaysia approach is we don't enforce. We want the public and the state's government to voluntarily participate. And Alhamdulillah, so far, the message went down and most state governments are on board. So next year is going to be quite an aggressive year for us. And even the public sector in Malaysia also make a point to endorse that no single-use plastic bags must be implemented in all the federal government agencies. So for me, for us in NRES and for Malaysia as a whole, it's a good start. You know, from voluntary, now we are looking into more policy-driven initiative. Recently, in April 2025, the federal and state government agreed to put a no plastic bag starting 1st of January 2026, as I mentioned before, beside the pollution charge that is still being implemented in some states of Malaysia. Now we will embark on the objective to reduce the most problematic SUP, which is the plastic bag, the singlet bag. Furthermore, we are advancing the implementation of Extended Producer Responsibility (EPR), working hand in hand with the Ministry of Housing and Local Government and the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. And secondly, on innovation, we are embedding circularity at the very beginning, and it's actually at the design stage process. We aim that all the plastic products produced can be recycled in the future, and I am delighted to share that the National Circular Economy Council and CEC has approved our initiatives to develop a national eco-design framework, beginning with plastic, in collaboration with Institute Piawaian and Penyelidikan Perindustrian Malaysia, or Standard and Industrial Research Institute of Malaysia, or famously known as SIRIM. We will create guidelines and legislation to ensure that every plastic product designed in Malaysia is fit for a circular future. Our target is to have this framework in place by 2030. And thirdly, on collaboration, these events serve as a valuable platform for networking with relevant stakeholders, particularly between government and industry, in formulating the best approach to the circular economy in Malaysia, and also in conjunction with this IGEM. The synergy between these two events will definitely create an unparalleled ecosystem for connection and deal making. It is here that we can forge the partnerships between government and industry that will turn policy into practice. In fact, we're going to conduct a research, a small research, beginning to evaluate the effectiveness of our plastic roadmap that we have developed before, and see how best to tackle the issue, this plastic issue, on the ground. We will seek more practical and a reasonable target as compared to the previous roadmap, which is very much academic, and we find that we notice that there's certain suggestion that actually is not ready to be implemented based on the existing practice and also campaign with regard to plastic, no bag plastic campaign in Malaysia. So therefore, in conclusion, the transition to a circular economy is our shared journey. It is a journey that will unlock new economic opportunities, create green jobs, and build a cleaner, more resilient future for all. My special thanks to the ACSDSD, including the ASEAN Secretariat, and all our partners for making this event possible, and definitely to all of you that are present today. Thank you very much for your support, and we hope with all the ideas that we gathered from the session, we can come out with a better policy when it's come to single-use plastic, combating single-use plastic, and also circular economy. And personally, I'm looking forward next year for IGEMs. Perhaps we can make it a point to have an agenda for plastic and also circular economy in the IGEM. But let's see how it's going to work. So with that, I end up my speech. Thank you very much.
Very well, thank you very much, Yang Berbahagia Dato' Noria Hati, for your opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed with the next and second opening remarks for the morning. For this, let us invite the Head of Development of the Danish Embassy to Indonesia and ASEAN, Ms. Saida Pukadit. Please welcome.
Good morning. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, and partners. On behalf of Denmark and the ASEAN EU Green Team Europe initiative, let us begin by congratulating ASEAN and its partners on the successful organization of the ASEAN Circular Economy Forum 2025. I also want to extend a gratitude to Malaysia for hosting this event and the ASEAN Centre for Sustainable Development Studies and Dialogue for organizing this forum. The depth of dialogue yesterday and the various side events reflect a growing regional commitment to a coordinated transition to circularity. Denmark is honored to support today's proceedings as part of the ASEAN EU Green Team Europe initiative. The circular transition cannot be achieved through isolated national actions alone. While ASEAN countries have made incredible efforts in developing ambitious circular economy visions, policies, and action plans, turning good policy on paper into effective action in practice can be challenging. The scale of material flows, complex value change, growing trade, and their environmental impact in ASEAN's demand joint and harmonized action. Collective approaches grounded in shared definition, compatible systems, and mutual recognition are essential to unlock circular value chains that can operate beyond borders. This is precisely what the ASEAN EU Green Team Europe initiative is designed to support. The project, under the name Transition to a Coherent Regional Circular Economy, is designed to support ASEAN in leading this transformation, fostering collaboration and shared learning across the region. The initiative, led by Denmark, will be implemented in collaboration with the Stockholm Environment Institute Asia, the Global Green Growth Institute, and will support ASEAN in its transformation to a circular economy. It has two main pillars. The first pillar is on regional dialogue. It brings together countries to strengthen dialogue, share experiences, support ASEAN member states in its circular economy action planning. The second pillar on waste data and methodology supports harmonized approaches to waste management, improving data systems, and enabling better traceability and resource efficiency. It is truly a collaborative effort. Denmark is proud to lead this initiative, bringing strong experience and a solid track record in circular economy transformation to support a coherent and impactful transition in ASEAN. We look forward to working closely with the ASEAN Secretariat, the Global Green Growth Institute, the Stockholm Environment Institute, and the ASEAN Centre for Sustainable Development Studies and Dialogue as key partners in advancing the implementation of this initiative. With that in mind, today's session is critical. We hope that as a group, we will be able to identify the specific priority areas where joint and harmonized regional action is both feasible and urgent, whether in skills, investment, private sector engagement, value chain integration, or innovation. Second, we look forward to hearing clear messages from participant businesses, cities, development partners on how partnerships like the Team Europe initiative can best support ASEAN to accelerate delivery. We are confident that the conversation this morning will not only reflect the diversity of perspectives in the room, but also convey actionable areas of collaboration. Denmark remains committed to accompanying ASEAN on this journey and to ensure that the Team Europe initiative continues to serve regional ambitions with practical support, shared learning, and long-term partnership. Thank you, and I look forward to the rich exchange ahead.
Thank you very much, Ms. Haida Bukadid, for your opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, next we will proceed with the next session, which is in understanding the true meaning of acceleration in the circular economy. And why is it important to engage multiple stakeholders moving forward? For this session, let us invite the Team Europe Initiative Advisor, René van Berkel. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. It's really indeed a pleasure to speak here at this first event of the Team Europe initiative, to which I'm an advisor, but I also have some other roles. I will not elaborate on that, but I'll speak on the circular economy. Let me take back a step from yesterday, and I will take, in reflecting the approach that the Ambassador Sujiro team took in kind of looking at the commitments, activities, and other areas. So it's clear that we have quite profound commitments to policy and strategy for circular economy by the ASEAN and its member states, by the EU and its member states. We see this also clearly by a number of investors and innovators, and we see this also by development partners. We see also activities, policies are being discussed, being rolled out. As Saida was saying, maybe there's still a challenge to implement them, but at least that's there. We see new partnerships being established. We see business practices emerging on circular economy. And we had quite rich discussions yesterday on the topics of innovation, skills, and entrepreneurship. So all positive. I would be a bit cautious on the discussion of results. I feel that this maybe is not yet so much being emphasized so much. But we heard some reports on increased recycling, improved waste collections, on mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions, more profitable businesses, community development. But I feel that we were stronger on making commitments than on reporting results. And that is maybe something that we need to focus on. Then in the final session, it was a bit on learn, unlearn, surprises. I think the challenge is still that the region as a whole needs to unlearn that circular economy is not the solution to ignored, underfunded, and unsustainable waste management. So we need to disconnect circular economy from the problems which we have with waste. There is a separate agenda for circular economy and for fixing the waste problems. And we need also, I think, to learn more about pathways to scale. So how can we get from a pilot project, which is great on avoiding some tons of plastic waste, but we need to address really the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of tons of plastic waste, for example. So that is basically around the impact. So where are we going with impact? I think impact on how we look at that depends on what, of course, is the goals and the ambitions for circular economy. And this we need to maybe clarify. So I think then the agenda, as was said by the moderator also, we want to discuss acceleration. And I think that's basically about going further and faster. So I will try to address 4 points in my presentation. I will go quite fast because some of the points were already made yesterday. So why scaling matters, how do we think about scaling, how does policy then accelerate the scaling up, and then some takeaways. So why scaling is basically, and I put here some quotes, we are basically not making enough progress. The Secretary General says we are on the highway to climate hell, and we even have the foot on the accelerator still. Or if we look at the climate projections, we are already living in a 1.5 degree warmed world, because last year was 1.55 degrees warmer than the average. And this is not the only thing. The Planetary Health Check, which was released last month, in New York, shows that it's not longer 6 planetary boundaries that have been exceeded, but it's 7 planetary boundaries out of 9 which have been exceeded. And what this means is that systems become increasingly less predictable. So we are putting the ability of the planet Earth to sustain our lifestyle, our lives as humankind at risk. So it's no longer a discussion on we need to preserve the tigers or the coral reefs. Do we want to preserve the planet for the people, for ourselves? This is going to happen not in the future generations, but is when we retire. So materials matter, and Kari and Alessio already spoke a little bit about that, but the resource panel is really saying that if we look at the planetary crisis which we have, it's 90% of the impacts on biodiversity are caused by materials use, 60% of climate emissions, and 40% of particulate matter pollution. So materials are really the root cause of the planetary crisis that we see, and we have 4 systems. Alessio mentioned them also yesterday: food, mobility, energy, and built environment, which are necessary. Kari showed yesterday this diagram that, of course, materials use is increasing, tripled over the last 50 years. But the flip side of it, and the maybe even worrying part of it, is that materials productivity, so how much money we make per kilogram of materials used, is almost flat. It's only less than 1% growth over 50 years period. So labor productivity is still skyrocketing, but materials productivity is lagging behind. Then if we just look at Global Flows Material Database, which is the best estimates of material flows, we see that the trends are are reflected in the region, but there are quite big differences. So as you look at domestic material input, that is the amount of material used in each economy per person. There's a factor 7 difference between the countries. The material footprint, so that's the material consumption that happens in the value chain or in the life cycle of the material of the things being consumed. It's a factor 12 difference, and resource productivity is a factor 9 difference. So countries with a higher materials consumption actually also have a lower material productivity. So we have issues at stake there. So then I get to that basically gets us to the circular economy ambition. So we need to look at circular economy as a systems perspective to go from resources to waste in society and the planetary impacts which we have then climate change, pollution and nature. And basically the ambition, if we go also to ISO 59004, it is to knock out these inflows and outflows. And that is possible by using things circularly, so again and again, efficiently and longer, and also taking advantage of natural renewable resources. So scaling is basically then concerned with moving from what I would call pilots or demonstrations, good practices, to something which is a common practice, to transformative impact. And we have different definitions for that, so what goes there. So you can say it's kind of spreading, so one company is doing, the other one should also do that. We can speak about deepening, so you do the easy things and then you go to more substantive, transformative change, or a broadening, getting more sectors involved. I think what is important is that we say it's not just replicating, not doing exactly the same and then getting double the result. That is not scaling. Scaling, you want to do 10 times more impact with twice the effort. So that is the kind of the challenge which is there. Or if I put it in plain language, we can say that if we talk about scaling, then best practice needs to become common practice. Quickly, we need to accept that business as usual is basically business of the past, because the situation is changing. We can say that planetary stewardship needs to replace the greenwashing. We then also have this taking responsibility rather than blame shifting. And let's also face it that we are basically dealing with, since 2022, with a human right established for clean, healthy and sustainable environment. So it's also increasingly a rights issue to deal with this. And we see that in the courts displays. And let us just make no mistake, there is just no pause button. We can't stop with climate efforts or with circular economy, because the processes are moving forward. So we think that, and this is with, also with the business sector, that there is a market transformation that needs to happen. On the left-hand side, you see what business can do. That's basically what the ASEAN Circular Economy Business Alliance is doing. And then on the left-hand side, you see the 4 parts. We need a policy framework. We need to make finance available. We need to structure the markets. And we need to look at innovation and technologies. If I just put some remarks yesterday, I think innovation skills and knowledge systems were very much focused upon. Markets that focuses more on the technical standards, so how can we trade in recycled materials, but also what is the requirements for food packaging, for building codes, which are really important. On financing, I think I got a quote from Maybank the day before yesterday. It's not just about creating incentives, but it's really about having perspective that investments can last for a longer time, that there is transformation happening. On the left-hand side, so business are taking action. So with ASEBA and Switch Asia, we documented, I think, almost 90 business cases, and they are online, and we see that business see cost savings, they see a new business opportunity, new markets, new products. They see also that change is unavoidable, so some in the fast fashion, in the plastics packaging, are seeing that they need to change. Their business model is not sustainable until after 2030 or so. And then I think the people on business are also saying circularity is the talk of town, if I may say so, so we better get engaged and figure out. So circular economy policy is on the agenda. I think Kai had the same slide, so there is a lot of effort. We also discussed yesterday the circular economy framework, which is there, but also the SCP framework is providing incentives. And then 7 countries have have their national strategies since 2017, so they are there and more action is happening. So I would not just focus on its formal circular economy action plans, but also at other legislation on waste, on energy, on resources. So I think that across these there are kind of three common themes which we found, and there's a trust on green public procurement, there's a trust around EPR, and there's a trust around business engagement. So if you see sustainable public procurement or green public procurement, it's basically nothing new. We agreed in Rio de Janeiro in 1992 that this was a priority for sustainable development, and it has been accelerated in the early 2000s with the Marrakesh Progress. It's now a separate target. And there is a body of best practices available. UNEP has made a lot of effort on how this could be done. And what we see, common procurement targets which are addressed is computer, ICT, paper, stationery, vehicles, kind of, if I may call that, consumer goods which are procured by government. I think there is a challenge there because basically we would like to see public procurement to create a market, and that is and then an example of this what is known as innovation-driven procurement. And then you could look at what's the nature of the problem, whether it's fragmented or not, and what is the nature of solution space, and then you get a 2x2 matrix. And we are currently with procurement, we are under this fusion strategy. So green products which are on the market can be procured under green public procurement. But we need to try to see whether we can expand the scope and also look at areas where solutions are not yet available, where public procurement can play a role. So Switch Asia looked around some of the countries. I would not go specifically there, but there is green public procurement, as it is happening in Southeast Asia, is focused on a limited group of products which are basically consumer products that represent only a small portion of the public procurement, and that's both in terms of the spend, the amount, the finances spent on this, as well as the total impact. So we need to, and this has been partly the case because we have piggybacked EPR of this story, green public procurement on the eco labels, and we have only had eco labels for limited products. So we need to look at leveraging for the transition, so covering all sectors, moving towards all kind of procurement, particularly public works, so bridges, roads, hospitals, schools, shopping centers which are being built, and to look at measuring the impact. On EPR, extended producer responsibility, we have to keep in mind that this is not a policy instrument, but it's a policy principle, and it can be implemented in many different ways. And basically it was introduced with three objectives. So shifting the cost from local government to the producers, improving waste collection, and also driving eco-design. So there's a body of best practices, which is basically by the OECD, where it focuses on setting up collective recycling system, collective processing through PROs, producer responsibility organizations. We looked also at what is globally available, and it's in Europe, it's in Japan. EPR is successful in shifting the finance and improving collection and recycling, but mostly recycling into low-level applications as a fuel or as a mechanical recycling. But it's not effective yet in providing an incentive for eco-design. So we have a challenge there. And that's largely attributable to the collective PRO system. So there's a fixed levy, so there's no individual incentive for one producer, because even if I improve the environmental performance of my product, I will still pay the same fee. So why would I bother? So there's a solution through eco-modulated fees, I guess, that is to basically then differentiate how much you pay, but it's very complex and not yet working. So we also, Switch Asia, looked at the deep dive in the three countries. So Philippines has EPR, it is working, but it's working mostly to collect legacy plastics from the beaches and from nature places, which is very valuable, but it doesn't turn the plastics which are waste, which is generated today, back into economic systems. And it's mostly going to the PET bottles going into mechanical recycling, and all the other, the flexible packaging is basically going for cement kilns as an alternative fuel. Malaysia, we heard yesterday is announcing this, and we heard also the Secretary General speaking about that. So there's optimism that it could work. There's issues with waste tracking around that. Thailand has had various voluntary schemes, and there's now a recognition that the voluntary schemes cannot be from a sandbox. You cannot get to a country-wide initiative. So really there. I think what is the reflection on there is that we have tried to copy and paste best practices from Europe, from Japan, from Australia into Southeast Asia and elsewhere in the global south. And we're finding out that this basically did not address the differences in baselines. And this is a big challenge. So if I say different in baselines, we're trying we are still faced with the prevalence of mismanagement and leakage of waste. And this was not the case when EPR was invented in Europe in the 1990s. We had a different background. We have a high level of informality. There's an underinvestment in the waste infrastructure, so we don't have a system there. There is very limited cost recovery. Even the city of Bangkok, where I happen to live, is proud to have some waste collection fees, but it covers only 5 or 6% of the actual waste management cost, which is incurred by the Bangkok Metropolitan Authority. So we're basically not paying for waste, and that makes it difficult. And politically, it's also being misused that the EPR, we're trying to take away the livelihoods of the informal sector, which is a political one, and it's objected as an additional tax, whereas in fact it is basically a waste management service. So we need to really rethink the operationalization of EPR in Southeast Asia. So for that, there's some discussion papers have come out which focus then on the sectors which it could be applied, on the collection channel, so how we address that, how we can do the high quality recycling, so not just collection of waste, but what is then actually happening with this waste. And how can we deal with the informal sector? So we need to differentiate between informal workers, which we want to include in the formal economy, but not necessarily the informal recycling industries, because there's a lot of, let's use it, politically incorrect word, the mafia around. There's a lot of low quality recycling with very high cost to the environment, the social societies happening in the e-waste, but also in plastic waste recycling. And we need to look at the cost of implementation. So maybe as a few takeaways, I know I run very quickly around it. I think that there's optimism because circular economy has clearly found a place in the policy agendas in the region, regionally and nationally. I think that we have a kind of a reliance on the game changers, as I would call them, green public procurement and extended producer responsibility. But their circular economy impact in terms of ambition of decoupling materials used from economic growth, and the impact is far limited. But anchoring green public procurement on eco-labels has been a quick start, but it's turning out to be a limitation right now. We need to think about how we can apply green public procurement in works, infrastructure, services, and make it more palatable. If we buy school uniforms, buy recycled materials, so we create a market rather than just relying on what is already available in the market. The collective implementation of EPR has also created mixed success, but it's still early to look in the region. But we need to look at how we can disconnect the EPR from, how we can reconnect basically the EPR to eco-design initiatives. So we just don't deal with waste management, but we deal with waste avoidance. And I think there's an opportunity to look at the many examples of promising approaches of circular economy in business practices, which are maybe not exactly fitting the sort of global North perspectives on what a circular economy is, but which are really making valuable contributions to the ambition of a circular economy that is to zero out inflows of materials from nature in the economy and zero out discharge of waste into the environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. René van Berkel. And in the meantime, while we proceed with the next session, ladies and gentlemen, there's a few announcements from the MC. Number one is we will have a QR code displayed in a very short while. Ta-da! So There's a QR code that will lead you to the event feedback. So if you have any any feedbacks with regards to the event, do let us know, and we will take those in, and this is for us to improvise ourselves in the future. All right, so do scan the QR code and give us your honest feedback with regards to the event, anything with regards to the event, whether it's content of the event, the speakers, the venue itself, the food, the refreshments. Do give us the feedback, everything counts. We will take those in for us to improve our services for you in the future. All right, second announcement from me is I believe you all have your tags around your neck, right? The blue tags. All right, so we've been talking about circular economy throughout these 2 days, and we would like to remind everyone that those tags is very much appreciated if you can return those tags after the forum of day 2 today, okay? So we want to avoid any wastages, so we encourage everyone to return the tags once the day 2 has ended at the registration counter. Thank you very much. And then thirdly, after this session, we will have our break. And once again, the break will take place at Hall 8C. All right, Hall 8C. As you exit this hall, it's to your left. Wonderful. So we will begin our next session, ladies and gentlemen, which is a panel discussion on the priority areas for harmonized and joint action. So this is on the ACEF Annual Policy Dialogue, Acceleration of Circular Economy in ASEAN. Because let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, no single country in the world can do this thing alone and can move this agenda forward alone. We have to work collectively, we have to engage multiple stakeholders, and it takes the whole world actually to move this agenda forward. All right? So for this session, I would like to invite the moderator for this session, the Assistant Director of Environment Division of ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community, ASCC, Dr. Vong Sok. Please welcome on stage. And ladies and gentlemen, joining him are our distinguished panelists. Allow me to first and foremost introduce the Executive Director of ASEAN Business Advisory Council, Mr. Rifki Weno. Please welcome. Next up, the Project Lead of Denmark BOFA or BOFA, Mr. David Christensen. Please welcome.
Hello, glad to see you, please.
And next up, let us call upon the Assistant Director of Trade Facilitation Division of ASEAN Secretariat, Mr. Chuang Tran. Please welcome. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, let us invite the Executive Director of EU-ASEAN Business Council, Mr. Chris Humphrey. Welcome on stage.
Good morning. I think we now come to very important session. We talk about acceleration circular economy, where we are at. So you hear a lot of reflection from Rennie. So it sounds like a lot. And still not clear. Where's the priority? How we can harmonize? How we can make better? You know, we have this sort of 4 panelist member today. It's a very important panelist. It's not only just doing business, one business case, but many other things, because they play important role in terms of coordinate all the private sector and businesses to deal with number of things, among other this sort of circularity. Therefore, this is one of the great experience that we will looking for, where the priority and how this harmonization can happen in ASEAN region, where we can accelerate and scaling up the circular economy. I mean, starting first, I think I may, because we run out of time, I think it's 20 minutes plus behind the schedule. So as a moderator, I'm really mindful all the time. Now I'm just come to the question to Ricky Weno, the Executive Director of ASEAN Business Advisory Council. Can you tell us about the business perspective of circular economy transition and where the critical area for harmonization and acceleration of circular economy in the region?
Thank you, Mr. Fong Sok. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rifki, and thanks for the ACSDSD for inviting the ASEAN back to be a part of this important forum. To answer your question, I think a lot of it have been covered by Renee in the previous discussion, previous presentation, but I would like to emphasize on the business perspectives here. I think businesses in ASEAN is already familiar with circular economy transitions based on I think right now the market opportunities for this circular economy transition is very big. So the growing consumer demand for sustainable products is already very big. So there's no reason for them to transition to this green economy right now. Second, again, the regulatory demand is also big right now. So they need to comply with ESG standards and everything. So I think it's already a good impetus and a good reason for them to transition as well. But I think the other one is, the most important ones, I think the reduction of costs. This is very, very important for businesses. Right now, for them to be able to adopt this circular economy transition, it really reduced costs for their operations. And this has been ongoing for several years now. I think we have successful case studies from all over ASEAN member states. We have the SCG talking yesterday where they use the waste into alternative fuels. We have also other examples in the textile industries. So the case studies are there. I think that the businesses in ASEAN has already been doing this. But how do we glorify these case studies into a bigger ASEAN industries, especially for the MSMEs and especially for the medium enterprises? I think we are not so discouraged or afraid of the big industries because they have been doing it right now. They see the opportunity and they have taken that opportunities. But how do we encourage the small and medium enterprises to fill in that gap, to also do this green transition journey? One of them is that the availability of technology right now is also very scarce. I think if you look at the textile industries, they want to go green, but the technologies are very expensive. So there's no local technologies that can cover that. So they need to find technologies from Europe, from all over the place, and it's not easy for them. It's expensive. So the availability of financing mechanism for these are very, very important for the transition to the circular economy. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rifki. I think it's you capture quite a lot about what we need to do, and it's become huge challenge as well. So that's a good thing that we can learn from this sort of comprehensive sort of approach, how we can accelerate the circular economy in the region. Now, may I turn the floor to David Christensen from Denmark? I mean, you may wish to share your experience. Of course, ASEAN may not be totally like EU, but you may see the opportunity from ASEAN and where you can unlock this sort of circularity and advance the circular economy in the region. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vong Sok, and good morning, everybody. Very pleased and honored to be here. Yes, I'm from Denmark. I represent an entirely different regional bloc, and I come at it from a completely, perhaps, different perspective to what we perhaps are being used to hearing today. I'm a representative of a local government unit that is handling waste, and we run the waste management infrastructure in our local area, where I represent BOFA, which is under the regional municipality of Bornholm, under Denmark, and it's an island in the Baltic Sea. We're 40,000 people. It's a tourist destination. It's not a massive metropolitan area. But what distinguishes us, and what has gone perhaps our way and has gotten ourselves into the international limelight in some recent years, has been our unanimously politically adopted vision to achieve, in popular speak, zero waste. We intend to completely phase out our waste incineration plant, which we have on the island, by 2032. And by the year 2032, our local politicians have all completely signed off on the idea that waste operations like landfilling and waste incineration are completely off the table. So we have to go completely up in terms of prevention, reuse, recycling. Now, local government units are a dime a dozen. There's many of them in ASEAN, there's many of them in Europe. But what is it that enables us as a small island in the Baltic Sea to go up and be so ambitious and even attempt something as crazy as what we want to try to do within the next couple of years? A prerequisite for that are basic foundational building blocks. We need to have a system in place for us to be able to say that what we do, how we want to achieve our targets, are credible, trustworthy, transparent. What we do when we track our waste, when we're able to say that we have 75% of our waste, 100,000 tons a year, being sent for recycling, 17% for incineration, 6% landfilling, 2% as a biomass that we use as a feedstock for our waste incineration plant. When we're able to say those figures, these are figures that are completely validated and part of our weighbridge systems that are synchronized with national data sets, real time. It's monitored by a Danish national waste data system, which again is supra enforced by the European waste codes that have been our way of harmonizing our data flows in our regional block under the European Waste Framework Directive. So we're a local government unit trying to be ambitious, and what has enabled us to do so is that the data that we use to get to where we are doing is founded upon these high-level policies and, in the end, legislative frameworks that we now operate under. And that's maybe something we can share to you guys, is that being a local government unit, you can be ambitious, you can do something, it requires something, and the enabling environment for that when it comes to tracking data is quite important. Those were my opening remarks for now, I think.
Thank you very much, David, for your insightful or this sort of important leadership of the city. I think now we go to the important person that talk a lot about trade negotiation. I think one of the most important driver for us to consider from the economic and from the private sector. I think he's been actively involved in the region in negotiation for the trade. I think he have a lot of story to tell us about the trade negotiation and also the result of that, which is really informed about the future of circular economy in our region. Now, maybe, Mr. Keung, can you elaborate what are the key regional actions needed to facilitate trade and material flow for the circular economy transition in our region? The floor is yours, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vong Sok, and very good morning to all participants and audience here. Yes, it's a very interesting topic, and we discussed around here with my very good friend on my left-hand side, and also my right-hand side. We partner together for not just only upgraded article innovation, but also other +1 FTA, ACEF, and everywhere. And of course, it's not just only for trade negotiation, but also for the custom integration and trade facilitation forum and some other issue. And now we end up here today, this morning, for further discussing on this matter. And yes, of course, we understand that we never be stopped here, and we still have a long journey ahead. But whatever we start is already very good. And we just want to share the story on how we can facilitate and support the free flow movement of circular economy product in the region. So we know that for yesterday and today, there are many speakers already talk about the production, but now we touch upon one of the very important issues. Yes, of course, after producing, where should go? Yes, of course, it can be circulated internally in your country, but how about the cross-border movement of the waste, used good, refurbish, remanufacture goods, reuse, repair, and so on and so forth. And just want to share a very good story before we move into the substance of this matter. Before we started our negotiation, we already conduct some kinds of private sector engagement, consultation with relevant business sector in the region, especially for those who are pursuing some kinds of sustainable program in the region. So we met with some companies in the region, such as remanufacturers in the region. We met HP company, which produce remanufacture laptop, iPhone, and whatever electronic gadgets. So we can imagine that when they introduce the price, they compare the differences of price for the brand new product, remanufacture, refurbished product. Very huge gaps, huge difference between the price of the new product and the reduced and also remanufactured goods. And that's a very good story to inspire us to put a very important provision on remanufactured goods in the upgraded Artiga. You will see it very soon after all ASEAN member states they sign it. And some majority of ASEAN members will sign this landmark agreement at the summit 26 October right here in KL, Malaysia. And yes, after that, there are some movement of remanufactured goods starting in the ASEAN region. We know that for remanufactured goods provision is not new in some FTA agreement, especially for the new generation FTA such as CPTPP, or the FTA between the EU, Vietnam, EU, Singapore, and some other new generation FTAs. But this is the very first time the provision appear in an ASEAN-led FTA upgraded Artiga. That's a very important point. If you see that can compare with other +1 FTA, like UNCTAD, AJCP, AKFTA, ASEAN India, ASEAN Australia, New Zealand, ASEAN Hong Kong, we have not found it. Under ASEP, even we try to insert this provision under ASEP negotiation, but it's a very tough negotiation, and we finally cannot insert this provision under ASEP negotiation, and you see the text of ASEP, we cannot find it. Even for the building agenda, even for the work program, we cannot find it. But this is the very first time under upgraded Artiga. The provision will be implemented after the entry into force of agreement. Hopefully, if we can accelerate Greece in 2026, so it can be implemented. And it can benefit some companies, some investors in the region, for example, like HP. And another story we also heard from the private sector, Fujifilm, a company from Japan, they want to make some investment on remanufacture health product in the Philippines, and they struggle to find and to get the license for establish that kind of factory in the Philippines. So when we organize a kind of workshop on this matter to support for Fujifilm, and at that time there are many concerns from regulators, and they also concerned about the environment impact. So the point here is, yes, of course, if you want to create rules for cross-border movement of remanufactured goods or circular product, so we need to address the concern of the regulators. And also the LINDC, because they also very concerned about the environment. They talk about the Basel Convention, which also have a high impact in some of our ASEAN countries. And in Malaysia, in somewhere else in ASEAN region, we also concerned about this. So the point here, we just want to send a message to LINDC, to stakeholder here that, yes, of course, we can initiate any initiative, but we have to take care of all the concerns, strike a balance between the stakeholder. So in one way, we can put forward some policy by make a pathfinder program, a pilot program, but the other area, we had to raise high awareness to other stakeholders. And we also have to put up some kinds of pilot program to set up. So that's something we would like to share here, and we welcome any further question and comment from our distinguished participants here. And my colleague Rifki and Chris here, you can also talk further on this matter. And the program, like I said earlier, we can continue it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keung. I think so it's not only Mr. Keung recognized Chris play important role in a number of conversation and also the right sort of interaction on this sort of thread and a sustainability agenda. Now, can you share your experience about, what are the missing link and also the key area that we need to improve in order to to promote this sort of trade and safeguard and also sustainability agenda in our region.
Thank you, Dr. Wonsok, and thank you to the organisers for inviting me. The question is, what's missing? What's missing is everything. We're missing everything. The upgrade of ATIGA is a missed opportunity. It's only going to cover remanufactured goods, not reused or recycled goods. It's not going to talk about how we should be using waste as a raw material to feed into recycling plants, rather than saying it's waste and we don't want it. What's missing is education. We're not educating our consumers enough about how to treat their waste, how to recycle their products. We're not providing them with the tools to recycle their products. What's missing is regulation by governments. We have differing levels of EPR policy development across the region. There is very little alignment on the principles involved in that, and we need alignment because businesses operate across borders. Otherwise, you end up with 10 sets of different rules and 10 sets of different compliance regimes and 10 sets of different fee regimes, and it gets immensely complicated and becomes a regulatory burden and a cost burden on businesses. We need to talk more about waste management, and Rene mentioned in his speech just now, circular economy, waste management, they're different things. I disagree. They are intimately linked with each other. We need to have the right waste management techniques. We need to talk about how we can sift our waste, how we can separate it out into things that can be recycled, things that can't be recycled. We then need to talk about the recycling sector. It's all well and good talking about circular economy. We can separate our waste. I can separate my PET bottles from my tin cans. But if there's no recycling business to recycle the product, and if there's no market for the recycled product at the end of it, then the entire thing is pointless. So governments need to be thinking about the whole thing, holistically, from the ground up. We need to have better waste management. We need to educate the population. We need to incentivize the establishment of a recycling industry. And we need to make sure that the end product from the recycling industry can then have a market to be used in as well. We need to sort out our EPR policies, and ASEAN needs to take the whole thing a lot more seriously, collectively. Secretariat's taking it seriously, but you guys are taking it seriously. The member states need to take it more seriously. And I say again, the upgrade of ATIGA is a missed opportunity. There is no reason why it couldn't have covered the circular economy completely, rather than just focusing on remanufactured goods.
Thank you very much, Chris. I think in the point of Mr. Keung just pointed out, just small, simple follow-up question, because this will inform us about the future. Trade negotiation very difficult, very tough, because that's business lead, economic lead, may not environment. So like he's pointing out, circular economy, environmental sort of impact in trade negotiation, still minimal sort of issue to be discussed. Now, just want to reflect your perspective, how the trade agreement can be streamlined, the social environment safeguard or circularity in that implementation. How any opportunity after this sort of agreement come into effect, because this will be important opportunity for the stakeholder to learn and where they can apply this sort of concept later on, because negotiation passed, but let's not limit there. There are still opportunity to implement, to do better for our society from trade perspective. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wonsok. Very good question. And yes, of course, often the negotiation is the phase for implementation. It's not just implementation, but efficient implementation. That's a very important point. It means that we have to bring the regulation, the provision which already negotiated, which already agreed, into life and into implementation. And yes, of course, as Chris already pointed out, remanufacturing is just a small part for circular economy product, but that's a very good starting point. And we know that for all the top issue, all the top negotiation, top provision, it should gradually start. And yes, of course, we will not forget about this one. It's still in the work program. And actually, we already designed under Article Agreement one provision for 5-year review program to continue to upgrade ADIGA, to continue to absorb whatever the private sector, as Mr. Chris already pointed out here, to bring it up. Yes, it could be refurbished good, used good, very good economic value waste, and also repair and other circular economy product will be put on the trade negotiation tables for further discussion, continue. But in the meantime, like I said earlier, it's not easy to get agreement by member states. The point here is when member states, they move into the negotiation table, they also have to consult with their licensee, also the private sector and other stakeholders in their country. They cannot decide alone. It doesn't mean that they don't want to do, but they also have to consult with relevant licensee on this matter, including environmental agency, ministry. And that's where we need to educate them. We need to raise their awareness. So time by time, we can receive support from them. So that's the point. We continue to looking forward for this program. We won't stop here at the ADIGA. We weren't satisfied with the outcome, the initial outcome, this one, but the progress, the path still ahead. And we need to build up education, build up the awareness for the concerned licensing stakeholder and put into implementation efficiently all the regulation which already, and continue with some kinds of further study to prove to the world, to the private sector, to licensee and other stakeholders to understand that circular economy products have many benefits, not just only for environmental issue, but also job creation, economic value, and also some other benefits which already highlighted the day 1 and also day 2 about circular economy product. So it's a progress, and we look forward for the partnership, close partnership from the private sector, from other donors here in this meeting room, and also licensee and other stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I still have one important last question to all the panel members, but I just check the floor first. I think I just want to hear anyone would like to have any question to the panel. Also, first round of the question that I asked them. Anyone would like to have interaction with the panel member? Just 2 questions. Who would like to ask the panel member before I give another question? Anyone? Okay. The gentleman over there, can you introduce yourself, because this to allow everyone know you.
Hello, thank you. I'm Anssi Mikola from a company called River Recycle. And what we do is we recycle the so-called non-recyclable low-value plastics, but we also clean 14 rivers in the region to stop ocean pollution. And what we find is in the rivers we don't find recyclables. We find the non-recyclables because the informal sector usually is fairly efficient at taking out all the recyclables and then having to get rid of the non-recyclables where the river is the easiest place, because then it's in nobody's jurisdiction anymore. Now, Rifki, you were saying that we need financing mechanisms for growing the circular economy. And what we see is we feel that there's the accelerators for innovation have worked. There are several solutions, but what we need is acceleration for the expansion, for the geographical expansion, because we see that the big cities are able to create a circular economy around low-value plastics, but it is the smaller cities, the thousands of rivers in the region that are the worst at polluting. Do you have any suggestion on how that kind of an instrument could be built? We have one idea where you can actually do such a thing and also tie it to the environmental policy. But since you work in the sector, have you seen financial instruments that would be for scale up and not just for innovation?
Thank you, Nicola. Ricky, the floor is yours.
This is a very tough question because I don't have the answer. right now in the region, there's not so many financing available for those type of projects right now. So we see in Indonesia a lot of donor countries are financing these type of projects. I see a lot of Danish funds going to the river cleanups, but there's no dedicated funds from the government yet until now. So that's where we need some alignment from the government to create a market for these technologies, especially on creating a lot of programs and projects that involve the private sectors to collaborate on river cleanups and etc. Right now, I think we are in this region. We are relying a lot on donor fundings and not so much on government fundings or even the private sector fundings. Because, as you said, the rivers are filled with the low quality plastics that is not commercially viable for them. So we need these type of financing from the international donors, philanthropies, as well as the government funding as well. So right now there's not much clear answer to that. So we are still exploring on fundings from international.
To share also.
Thank you for the question, and I might want to give a perspective from Europe on a place like where we're from, where endpoint plastic marine pollution isn't that much of a big problem because we've managed to set up systems and building blocks to tackle that issue. From our perspective, it's not a project financing issue of getting, mobilizing and getting funding local communities and different stakeholders to help with ocean cleanup efforts, like in the manner that you're describing. In Denmark, we just recently implemented the EPR on plastic packaging. How does that work? How has that been implemented in the run-up to now it being a reality in our country? Is that the PROs pay the municipalities, and the municipalities have fully funded door-to-door collection schemes for plastic packaging of all kinds. And we are quite transparent from the local government level in saying this is the quality you get. It is mixed plastics, recyclable good PET, and low recyclability PP. This is what you get when it's post-consumer plastics. Nonetheless, and of course that's been contested and negotiated back and forth, of course, but we have a close to 100% collection rate. It's funded, and the producer responsibility organizations designate the best that they can find at the moment, high recyclability plants that can recycle them to the highest level. So a solution to that is scale through big systems.
Thank you, David. I think now it's no more question from, one more. So I try to accommodate one more. The microphone, please.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moderator. So I'm Hafi, I'm from the Retirement Fund Incorporation, QUAP. So I would like to ask to Mr. Rifki, actually, since we are from the institutional investors in Malaysia, we would like to know what are the financial capacity or mechanism that can be seen more scalable and impactful that can help to accelerate our efforts to shift to a circular economy. Because at QUAP, we are managing our portfolios companies, which some of them are actually producing high emissions, especially they are producing, plastic recyclings, they are doing like plastic feedstock. So the question is actually, because yesterday I joined the plastic trade workshop with WEF, which I think it's very important because we discuss about initiative like plastic trade, but when we talk about in ASEAN context, it's fine, but when it comes to Malaysian context, we are shifting towards developed nations, right? So somehow we are actually quite lacking behind with our regional peers when it comes to plastic trades and plastic circularity. So I just want to ask, what would be the best financial mechanism that institutional investors like us can be part of the initiative in, playing the role of our advocacy roles as institutional investors. Thank you.
I think I addressed a little bit on the availability of technology here. I think plastic, first I think one of the most important part of this whole value chain is the traceability of these plastics. A lot of I think if we want to sell off these credits for plastics, we need to know the traceability of these plastics as well. So one of the main accelerator for you that you can fill in is building this digital traceability platforms so that all of these plastics that is being recovered in our rivers and in our region have the origin from the ASEAN and are traceable. That's one. And the other one is also to have all of these technologies in terms of turning plastics into energies. I think a lot of demands in the region as well on how do we treat these plastics and how do we treat these plastics and turn it into an energy that is sustainable for everyone. So that I think what I can think of is those two, traceability and also the technology itself for it to be able to be a massive implementation in the region.
Thank you very much. Now I just still have one big question because I haven't answered clear yet to the meeting, to the conference. It's about the priority. So I just would like to reflect from all your experience, and can you just share what are your priority for advancing circular economy, your priority, your institution, and then what are the priority that you can see from order, who should, and then the order here you need to identify who should do more as a part of that priority. So can start from Chris first? Yeah.
Thank you for that. One priority. We need governments to not work in silos, to work collaboratively across different ministries. It needs to be led by ministries of the environment or their equivalent. It must involve trade or commerce. It must involve industry. It must involve national planning, and it must involve ministries of education, and probably others on top. We need to make sure we have the right regulatory environment to help support and promote the circular economy. And that's a regulatory environment which is a mix of incentives and of sticks and carrots. And it must involve talking to the private sector as well, both SMEs and the large corporations at the same time. We have a golden opportunity here, and I think everybody in this room, certainly, I think everybody generally in society sees the need to move forward on a circular economy, a true circular economy, but the instruments to help make it work aren't there, and those instruments must come from governments in the first place, but they must be developed with the public and with the private sector to make sure they are completely workable.
Thank you, Chris. Mr. Keung, what is your priority and any other particular agency or people priority you see from your side?
Thank you very much, Dr. Vong Sok. First, I would like to share what Chris already mentioned. Yes, of course, everything should start from the government. And Chris already rightly pointed out, Ministry of Environment is a main body to take lead the process. But also want to echo what Chris already mentioned, we should not work in silo. That's very important because one agency, as I already mentioned earlier, during the process of trade negotiation, we also have to consult with relevant stakeholders. We also have to consult with different relevant line ministries and also other business associations. So that's a very important for coordination job here. And who should be the leader? And of course, it should be the environmental ministries. But to deep dive further into this issue, we need to take more specific action, more specific follow-ups after this one. That should be some kind of a very comprehensive study on the practice in ASEAN region, how circular economy product move across countries. That's a very important point. So we can provide a very science-based study research on this matter to show to the public, to show to the line ministry, especially for environmental ministry, that there are some pros and cons on this matter. And we have to strike a balance between them and find a way forward, make some good recommendation for member states, particularly for some sector body, to discuss further on this issue. And yes, of course, we also look forward for the support, sponsorship from our donor here around Jibo, and of course for those who not participated in the workshop today, to support us by sharing practice, sharing expertise, so we can help ASEAN member states to move forward on this issue, because we know that from European country, US, Australia, they have lots of experience. They already moved forward on this issue much farther ASEAN country, and we need to learn from them. We don't copy 100% from what practice, what law and regulation already implemented in the country. But when we bring such good practice in here, it need to be further discussed, modified, amended to make it more appropriate to ASEAN member states. And yes, of course, we cannot implement everything immediately, but like I said earlier, it should be prioritized through some pilot program, pathfinder program, to make it amenable to the situation of all member states. So on top of that, the priority, again, as the question raised by Pak Wong Sok here, is we need to conduct a very thorough study around the region to find out the practice and regulation and learn the practice from other countries as well, to bring a very close partnership discussion with the private sector and licensee to build up a very specific action plan, work plan for this issue, maybe 5 years or 10 years, and then we break into smaller pieces, and then we can move forward with each year program. So work together with that among licensee and partnership with private sector, we can move to something we expected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kung. David, the floor is yours. What is your priority and any other priority that can be reflect for other sector and other stakeholder?
Thank you, Dr. Wong Sok. I agree that what's being said so far, that member states shouldn't operate in silos. Ministries of the Environment should take the lead in this. There's also something I want to say to that, I'm coming from a different perspective, I'm coming from a different regional bloc. What I'm saying and what the context I'm coming from and explaining out of could be a window of the future for what could be ASEAN's reality in some years' time. But I would also share some of your carefulness in assuming that legislative frameworks and framework conditions can simply be transported and applied in ASEAN, because it also has to be context dependent, of course. If I were to put something new on the table that maybe would be something I would suggest for ASEAN to work with, it's this. Don't forget, if you want to stimulate trade of circular products and flows of refurbished components and products of the type that you're describing, there should be an avenue, there should be an opportunity to gain ASEAN-supported research, development, and innovation funding for that kind of thing. I'm a project team lead of a local government unit that handles waste in a small part of Denmark, but we're able to access in our team Horizon Europe funding, LIFE funding, interregional, Interreg, South Baltic funding. These are different EU funding support programs all member states pay into to support different aspects of circular transition in our regional bloc, which enables partners from trade, from business, from public sector, from university, all helixes and civil society to approach these funding sources to ask them, can we work together, partners from different member states, to work towards common solutions towards a circular transition. And we've been able to gain a portfolio of projects with partners from Spain to Lithuania to Germany to Austria to Greece, and even abroad further than that. I don't really see that there's too much of that kind of thing in a regional bloc like ASEAN, but it could be a priority area to look into RDI funding, because that could be a way to look into harmonization and implementation, what we have to do now, but also working towards the future of what the components need to be in place for in a circular economy in your regional bloc.
Thank you very much, David. Riskies.
Yeah, I think I agree. One is to develop a lot of this research and technology. I think we will witness the establishment of ASEAN Centre of Excellence for Green Transition next week. There will be one of the avenues to deploy this research and development. And second is actually, because we are talking about ASEAN, so how do we trade this circular economy products? So implementation of ATIGA will be very important. And one of the important thing is to also mutually recognize what considers as waste and what considers as product. So that's how, I think that's a very much important derivative regulations from the ATIGA upgrades. And the third one is also for the national ASEAN member states is to create this market demand. So I tend to agree with what Rene said before on the procurement side. You know, I think for example, in Indonesia, they have this market-driven recommendations where they encourage the government to procure local products. They can also try to do the same thing with eco-label products. So that's one of the ways to do we encourage people to turn into circular economy products.
Thank you very much. I think the panelists provides very important insight. It's about the priority, which is not one priority, a number of priorities that we need to do. Among other, we need to work together. Cooperation, collaboration, coordination, it's still there. Work together to implement the trade agreement in the way of how to streamline the key message of the circular economy, the sustainability in the real life sort of practice. We have done education, research and development, and also capacity building and outreach. It still play important role. How to translate that into the policy document, how to translate those into the real action to become economic viable. So this is the opportunity for us to continue learning and adapt our approach. So this including establish a market niche, very important how to create this sort of market niche. May not be comprehensive, but step-by-step approach, what you just point out. And also financing mechanism. There's a lot of funding opportunity, pending fund from different countries here and there. There's some potential, but it's still not well connected, still not yet optimized. Therefore, I think this is the way forward that we continue learning and also explore and improve our performance over the time. With that, we would like to express our sincere thanks to the panelist member and give a round of applause to our panelists. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Dr. Vong, for moderating this session, and also to our distinguished panelists for sharing your insights on the circular economy. Ladies and gentlemen, allow them to take a group photo on stage. In the meantime, I would like to announce that we will go on a 15-minute break, and during this break, you are also allowed to take the food and also the drinks back inside the hall. So we will proceed with a 15-minute break. And the refreshments is served at Hall 8C. Exit this hall to your left, as per yesterday. Thank you very much. Enjoy your refreshments and be back here for our next session. Slido. Nope. Which one? Which? Let me turn this off. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the hall. Welcome back from your break. So please invite yourselves over back to your seats. We will begin with the next panel discussion of this morning. And for those who are tuning in from afar, please tune in once again as we will begin with the panel discussion number 2 this morning. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now resume our session this morning with a panel discussion 2 on how can policy action support multiple stakeholders' acceleration of the circular economy. To moderate this significant session, I would like to once again invite on stage Assistant Director, Environment Division of ASCC, Dr. Vong Sok. Please welcome him once again, ladies and gentlemen. He will be joined by 4 distinguished panelists. First and foremost, let us invite the Deputy Director of Islamic Financing, Indonesian Ministry of Finance, Encik Muhammad Iqbal Balatif. Welcome on stage. And next, let us invite the venture capitalist at Gobi VC, Mr. Gerald Koh. Followed by the Director of the New Industrial Master Plan, Malaysian Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry, or known as MITI, Tengku Zahaslan. Please welcome. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, let us invite the Chief Sustainability Officer of Maybank Foundation, Datuk Shahril Azwar Jimin. Dr. Vong, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My great honor to moderate this session. Again, I think it's a lot of people still not yet coming. I would like to announce this sort of sorry for them. They miss. We distribute a lot of money. They miss the opportunity. Should money have been distributed? Yes. This is one of the opportunity. The money may not be able to waiting for you. You have to be ready, engage, and collect. So you may wish also to inform the latecomer, you missed the money we already distribute. Now, I think it's an important moment for us to discuss about this sort of financing aspect, partnership and engagement. I think this is a fundamental matter as a key action to drive our success, to drive our acceleration and scaling up of the circular economy in the region. You know, you have these four speakers here with me today. It's a very renowned, very experienced from the finance, stakeholder engagement, and so on in our region. So I think we have important speaker here. The first, as have been seen from the photo, and in front here, Mr. Akbar Balatif, Deputy Director, Islamic Finance Indonesia. I think you may want to hear about what he's doing, what is the ministry doing, where the money have been distributed. That's why I'm saying to the latecomer that you missed the opportunity to receive the money. So, can you also elaborate how the innovative finance instruments such as green bond, SDG bond, or any other bond that used to finance circular economy project in Indonesia, and how this can be also highlight the key important contribution that you made to ASEAN and other ASEAN member states?
Thank you, Dr. Fonsok. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to thank the organizer for having me in this very important forum. I think I've learned a lot from these 2 days sessions. And regard back to the question from Dr. Fong that Ministry of Finance role in this circular economy, I think if we look at our journey started in 2018, we developed a sustainable financing framework for the government, in which we try to create a governance setting for that enable us to identify spendings from the government that will support the climate actions and will have the positive impact for the environment. So this framework is not just a financial instrument, actually. This is a policy that integrates the fiscal policy and environment and social development agendas. We have reviewed and updated the frameworks since 2018 until now 3 times. Regularly, we review and update to be aligned with the international standards, ASEAN standards, ICMA standards. This, the goal of this sustainable financing framework for government securities is actually to achieve the net zero target by 2060 and SDG targets by 2030. This is to ensure that economic growth remains inclusive and equitable. So this updated framework launched in 2025, recent, and aligns with the international best practice. It defines clear eligibility for both green and blue focus spending from the government. So in 2018, we only have expenditures eligible for this instrument is only for green. Then 3 years later, we expand the scope to also cover social focus. And then later in 2025, we separate the green with the blue to have more focus on the blue financing. Having that Indonesia is archipelagic countries, right? 17,000 islands and exposed to rising sea levels. So blue becomes the focus now. And of course, it is in line with the National Development Plan strategy, long-term and medium-term. And also noticing that what was asked just now, that National Action Plan for Circular Economy also considered in the National Development Planning. And this framework based on 4 pillars. The first one is the use of proceeds. This to set the expenditure criteria that will be able to be used to for us to be underlying the issuance of these securities, sustainable securities. So 100% of the proceeds will be used to finance eligible expenditures that may fall under green, blue, or social focus. And then project evaluation and selection, this was done using our tools called climate budget tagging. So this allow us to identify budget coming from the line ministries that will be eligible, considered eligible to be underlying for this instrument. And the way we manage the proceeds, that to ensure that allocations only for these eligible projects, we integrate the treasury management policy. And then reporting. This is very important. When we claim this is a sustainable instrument, then we are accountable for this. And we need to make annual allocation and impact report published and externally reviewed and audited. Then, since 2018, we have issued more than like 11 to 12 billion US dollars in sustainable securities, including green SDGs sustainability theme, making it largest sovereign sustainable sukuk issuer globally. And our issuers have attracted highly diversified investor base, ESG dedicated funds, Islamic investors to central banks and pension funds. The 2023 Global Green Sukuk representing over 3.3 times oversubscriptions and was distributed across Europe, Middle East, and Asia. So in terms of realization, proceeds have financed over 600, around 700 kilometers low carbon railway infrastructure, renewable energy plants generating 7 million kilowatt hour, and 11 million student scholarships, 3 million social protection beneficiaries, significant carbon dioxide reductions exceeding 10 million tons. So these results not only improve the credibility of the instruments, but also tangible domestic impact. So in short, this framework is Indonesia's blueprint to finance our future responsibly, and it shows that sustainability and fiscal discipline can go hand in hand, that Islamic finance and ESG values can reinforce each other. We also offer this instrument to individuals, to the citizens. This is not only for their investment features, but we also include in the campaign, marketing campaign, to educate them. Education also highlighted in the previous session, that's very important. So 100,000 investors buy this instrument, and one of the reasons, of course, the financial return is one of the reasons, the main reason, but the second thing is because they want to support what we are doing. And as we continue this journey, Indonesia invites global partners to collaborate. The 3C or 4C, Dr. Fong highlighted yesterday. So not only in investing in the securities, but in investing on our shared commitments in ASEAN, in our region, to a greener, fairer, and more resilient world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Park, for this important message that I think if all of you not yet receive this money, may reflect, this may be opportunity for you to look at. Some money there. It's one of the things that he presented. I think now I just would like also talk to Dr. Tengku Jahaslan, the Malaysian Ministry of Investment and Trade. I think because of, I'm talking from the public sector first, because we have learned also about Malaysian policy on solid waste from KPKT, but now we want to hear more about the national framework for circular economy at the manufacturing sector. Could you highlight what is your priority on the circular economy and you know, how you can support order? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bong Sok. And thank you also to the organizer for inviting the Ministry of Investment, Trade, Industry to this very important platform. So to answer the question in terms of the circular economy policy framework, I would like to talk about the impact that we expect from it. But before that, perhaps it's good for me to explain what was the purpose for us to develop this policy. When we started to embark on the development of this policy, we realized that first of all, circular economy is something that is becoming very, very important. Sustainability is a hot topic, and under the new industrial master plan, circular economy is considered as a key initiative that needs to be done for the manufacturing sector so that they can transition and remain relevant in the future. Because I think a lot of discussion on circular economy revolves around the waste management side of it, and but if you look at the data, the more advanced or the more mature an economy in terms of its circularity, then the discussion will start to shift towards more upstream. So there'll be a higher degree of involvement of the manufacturing sector in the process of transitioning the economy to circularity. So, and the discussion is not just about environmental. There's an economic imperative of it as well, and therefore, circular economy becomes a key strategy for Malaysia in terms of the new industrial master plans. How do we move the industry towards a new level of growth by 2030? So in terms of the circular policy framework, the main purpose is to ensure that we come up with an ecosystem where manufacturers can transition better. Because right now there's a lot of policies that covers the waste management sector. So we have the circular economy blueprint for the solid waste management. So those are tackling the downstream part of it. But there's not enough policy tools to support manufacturers in their journey to transition. So the impact that we look by 2030 is basically to come up with an ecosystem for the manufacturers in their journey to transition. That means like, coming up with the CE certification, coming up with eco-labeling, eco-industrial parks, and also come up with policies in terms of recycled content and so on. And if you look at our policy, that we have 14 initiatives. Half of it is actually just enablers. So we need to basically come up with enabling tools to ensure that they can undertake that transition. We don't have a really high target until 2030 because we know that circular economy, the transition process do take time, and it's difficult for manufacturers, especially because there's a lot of talks about how CE can come up with a new revenue stream and so on, but not all activity on circularity actually currently economically viable. For example, if you want to come up with products with high recycled content, then your production may be higher than those using virgin materials, which is usually cheaper. So the government's role in terms of policy is to create that economic feasibility for CE to happen. So that's where we come in. So if you look at our target by 2030, we don't aim high in terms of circular material use rate. If you look at our numbers in 2019, we are at 0.3% of circular material use rate, which is very, very low. And what we target is that we can reach 4 times more than where we were in 2019. So just 1.2% by 2030. Still low, but the idea is that the focus is to come up with the enabling ecosystem first, and then we will be able to scale. How do we translate this policy? So we want action. We want to materialize. So what we do is that we don't just come up with a policy paper, but also we come up for each initiative that we have. We develop a specific separate document that outlines what are the details of implementing those initiatives. Who are the people that should drive that initiative? How are they going to be done? What are the timeline and so forth? And we ensure that we have a delivery management unit. So that's where I'm from. We make sure that there's a delivery management unit that tracks the progress of each initiative that we have in place. This is to make sure that all action items are being rolled out. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, go to the private sector and startup. I think it's maybe exciting. And then with that, I think we have important key player, Jiraco, the global partner, who've been actively with the startup company. And I think he's been involved a lot with this sort of crowdfunding. So we may want to hear from you about, from the private sector perspective, how crowdfunding works, how it can support and accelerate circular economy in our region.
Thank you, Doctor. Selamat petang, and I guess to all our foreign friends, welcome to Malaysia. My name is Gerald. Maybe before I tackle the question, a quick intro to ourselves. So I'm from our headquarters in KL, from the investment team of Gobi Partners. We are an Asian regional VC firm, initially out of Shanghai, but currently headquartered in both Hong Kong and KL. We spent a long time in ASEAN. Unofficially, I think we've been exploring the market for 15 years. Officially, we've been HQ'd in KL for the past 10 years, so coming up to our 10th anniversary. I think a preconception that I think is important when it comes to circular economy is, and this is what I learned when I was trained in the US in VC, if we stop thinking about investing in circular economy as charity and truly believe it being alpha investing, I think it completely changes the conversations that we have on an economic standpoint, right? So you can't talk about circular economy without talking about the money that ties into it, the economy part, right? To answer the doctor's question, I think the past 10 years or so, we've been pretty well educated and exposed to crowdfunding, right? We have the very vanilla first-gen crowdfunding, which is the Kickstarter of the world that you've seen, right? As regulation matures, we see crowdfunding and equity investment. We see, you know, in Asia, we have Pitch-in, which I believe many of you might have heard of. You know, in the US, we have Republic, where it allows sort of like retail investors to sort of crowdsource funding into equity investments. From our perspective, we think it's a very multifaceted role that every capital plays in this economy, right? As a VC firm, our mandate and the capital that we hold is meant to underwrite the platforms, right? May it be a technical platform, may it be an orchestration platform, right? In circular economy, at Gobi, we spend a lot of time in raw materials recycling, right? And battery recycling, and aluminum recycling, right? And we focus on the technology that goes into these things. Companies that develop new methodology to do recycling more efficiently. And this is what we underwrite. What we don't underwrite is we don't fund projects. And this is where we think crowdfunding is amazing. Reason being, the underlying risk to underwrite is much more palatable for retail investors or the crowd. So we see a lot of innovation in this space, right? Like an analogy is in renewable energy and solar panels, right? We invested in companies that worked on the technology that goes into solar panels. Now we see platforms that allows you to invest in solar panels to generate energy and obtain dividend from those things. So we think it will play a similar role when it comes to recycling, when it comes to, you know, operating energy plants, recycling plants. These are major projects that are extremely lucrative for crowdfunding. And the investment holding period will be much more palatable as well. You see dividends coming in much earlier. So no pun intended, it's actually a circular flywheel of capital where we come in on the dirtiest investments, on the most technical investments, and then the crowd comes in on individual projects. And once you get your return from these projects, you tend to reinvest into new projects, into more efficient projects within ASEAN. So that's kind of where we have in mind where crowdsourcing comes in. I think we live in a very exciting time where, I don't want to be the wild horse on the panel, but you know, with new regulation in ASEAN, in blockchain and Web3, we see all this tokenization of energy projects, of, you know, recycling projects, of real world assets. We think it's definitely lowered the barrier for retail to crowdsource into these sustainability initiatives.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience and on this sort of crowdfunding and stuff. May I ask the question to Dato Cyril Jimin, the Chief Sustainability Maybank Foundation. Maybank, I think, is play important role, but the foundation more important in terms of bridging the gap, try to translate impact as a part of inclusivity. So with that back, I think how you can see this sort of experience from the Maybank Foundation in terms of the way you bring the value to the community, to the women, as well as, you know, any social aspect that you see this important of society.
Thank you, Dr. Wong Sok, and thank you to the organizers and Ambassador Paswan, especially for convincing me to be part of this, representing my bank. The question I would like to phrase is, why is Maybank here? Why is Maybank part of any discussion on circular economy? And we are one of the few private institutions here during this forum, but also I think the only bank. Now, why Maybank is here, I will put it down to three parts. Yeah. Number one, circular economy is today part of, or circular economy financing is part of the broader sustainable finance framework ambit anyway. Yeah, so that's something. So that's number one. Circular economy financing is part of sustainable financing. Number two, for Maybank, it ties with our mission of humanizing financial services, whereby one of the key imperatives is to be in the hearts of the communities that we serve and to impact society positively through social financing or social empowerment. So those are the two things that we are doing, among other things. And thirdly, why Maybank is here, we are actually the only bank that is accredited by ASEAN through the Maybank Foundation. We were recognized by ASEAN through the ASEAN Secretariat and given ASEAN accreditation status in late 2019, given the community work that we undertake throughout all the 10 ASEAN member states, and in particular fulfilling the aspirations of the ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community Blueprint 2025. Yeah, so that's the three reasons why here. So, and you had also alluded to our work for women and in the communities. So, how we deploy our fundings, yeah, as I mentioned, reason number two why we're here is either through social financing or through social empowerment. So social financing includes our low-cost financing to enable people and communities to be able to enjoy a certain degree of livelihood, or through the deployment of wakaf and zakat funds and so on. But social empowerment is largely the work done through our Maybank Foundation in certain areas to uplift communities and to provide financial empowerment and also to financial inclusion for the communities that exist within Southeast Asia. So, and these are done typically through well-designed programs that will enable ultimately for the handover of these programs to the local communities and to be able to report outcomes that will be able to be measured. And this is very important because all the work that we do will be published in our safety report that goes through various degrees of validation. Yeah? So when we look at the work towards circular economy, and this is something that we're very interested because the outcomes of any proper circular economy endeavor is actually both an economic and social transition that creates opportunities for jobs, innovation, and community resilience. Yeah? So when we were looking at what programs to deploy throughout the ASEAN member states, we were looking at how can we bring the people together, how can we create maximum outcome, but at the same time, how do we look at the commonalities and the similarities that exist within the ASEAN member states instead of looking at the differences. So we looked at one of the things that we came up with, that in at least 8 of the 10 ASEAN member states, there exists a history, tradition, and culture of weaving. And it is oftentimes done by women over hundreds of years, and today they are in difficult situation, or the art is dying out as a heritage. In certain instances, by unnatural intervention. For example, what happened in Cambodia during the regime of the Khmer Rouge, yeah? So where the weaving community was also part of the the unfortunate, yeah, that was not allowed to continue in the trade. So when we look at that and we realize that this is a heritage that needs to be preserved, but there also exists an opportunity for financial empowerment of these women, yeah, and many times they are often left and fall through the cracks. So we came out with this program called Maybank Women Eco Weavers that seeks to give capacity building and training for women in the weaving communities, so that number one, the culture will continue to be able to provide opportunities for economic empowerment, and not as working for people, but in terms of creating their own businesses. So we started this project in this program on a small way in 2016, working with local community groups in Cambodia and in Indonesia at the point in time. And today, I am proud to say that as of last count, we have given capacity building and training and support to 2,100 women across 5 ASEAN countries. We have supported 2,700 farmers to plant mulberry trees and cotton trees, mulberry trees specifically in Cambodia and in Laos, so that is part of the ecosystem to produce silk. We need to produce mulberry trees because silkworms will then consume the mulberry leaves. Yeah? And in doing so, we have supported 700 farmers throughout these various countries and created an ecosystem of pure circularity here, and until to the extent that one of the unfortunate truths of silk production is that the silkworm needs to die, yeah? Because you boil the silkworm. But what is left is this pupae of the silkworm from the cocoon. And pound for pound, it contains one of the highest nutrition in the world. And that is distributed to the village children where we are supporting the farmers for nutrition. How is our role in that for Maybank? We work with local groups. Yeah, we work with local groups that provide this capacity building. We provide the funding. And the participants, the women, we create a financial inclusion. They come into our system from Maybank. We create Maybank savings accounts for them. And we provide market opportunities for them as well. So for our Maybank Women Eco Weavers, that today 13 capacity building centers throughout ASEAN. We have it's in Malaysia, it's in Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia, more recently in the Philippines. 2 centers in the Philippines. Already twice our material that was produced have been paraded on the catwalk in Paris, yeah, for example. So that's the kind of thing. And we do not think anything out of it, yeah, for Maybank. It's for these communities to thrive. So that's an example of the circularity that we are supporting. That's seems very difficult, but it's not as complex. It can be given that Maybank is present in all these countries to give that kind of support. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dato. I think it's quite important. I think I take note also your schedule very challenging. Now I think it's as a part of small follow-up from your questions. You talk about circular economy financing as a part of the core business of Maybank as well, and then the social financing. How these two things connect, and then how the social funding where you mobilize resources to empowerment the community, the women, and so on. How this can be accelerated on the circular economic dimension?
Thank you. So as I said, circular economy financing is already recognized to be part of the largest sustainable finance agenda. And I was very happy to hear my colleague just now from Indonesia talking about use of proceeds. Now that's very important, yeah, because use of proceeds is a technical term that we use that provides eligibilities for sustainable financing. So Maybank became the first bank in Malaysia to come up with a sustainable product framework back in 2022. It provides eligibilities in terms of what qualifies for sustainable finance. What qualifies. Later on, we went even further. We developed the region's first transition finance framework that was launched at COP28 in Dubai. Now that's a bit more technical, but for the sustainable product framework, whatever we discussed just now, it truly does fit, because when we talk about what banks want to do today, it is not just funding green projects anymore. It's beyond that. Yeah. So yes, initially when we spoke about sustainable financing, banks were talking about we want to provide green and sustainability-linked bonds, sustainability-linked loans, and so on. But I think we moved beyond that. We're looking at what kind of circular economy funds and blended finance platforms that we will have, and what kind of bodies we're able to support this kind of thing. We have the circular economy finance facility, for example, and we have United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, we have World Bank, all coming in to support this. Yeah, but beyond that, for the banks, what banks can offer for the circular economy, so it's what I like to think about circular economy financing framework that should be aligned with the ASEAN taxonomy for sustainable finance. This is something that you would know very well, Dr. Wong Sok. So, and therein there is qualification of what qualifies as a circular activity, and at the end of the day, it makes sense. You know, so this is the part of sustainable finance which I like, because some parts of sustainable finance, especially transition finance, can be very technical. But in terms of circular economy financing, it's something that makes sense. So resource efficiency, product life extension, waste minimization, bio-based materials, you know. So it is things that it's easy to support. It is easy to support. So for Maybank today, as I said, what we are doing for the Maybank Women Equiverse is a social empowerment. But we also do that social financing, and we are today exploring how we can better push in terms of our wakaf and even our zakat funds.
Thank you very much, Dr. I think you may have heard important information from the 4 panelists. I think my question may not be enough. The panelists may not be elaborate enough. Now the opportunity is you. It's not only money, but also first thing first, learning. Anyone would like to throw question to the panelists? There is a great opportunity where you can understand where the opportunity is. The floor is yours now. Anyone would like to throw important question? It sounds like a very clear explanation. Or don't know at all. It can be because of some of us maybe from environment sector. Now they talk about the financing, market, crowdfunding. That may be a true challenge and hard to us. I think it doesn't matter. As a moderator, I can entertain with some of the questions then. I think now it's one thing that you have learned from all the speakers. There are always term, condition, and policy in place. Money there, but it's not all available in your way of thinking. You have to put in their way of thinking, in their policy, in line with their policy, in line with their priority. Otherwise, we may not be able to tap into those resources. Let's say from Indonesia, talking about this sort of process to go through. They have policy, they have criteria. Maybank Foundation, the same thing. Maybank have the same thing, rule, procedure, that is also the framework in place that need to guide all that sort of decision. If we're not in line with that sort of process and in line with that sort of priority, we are. The same thing from the capital market here, from crowdfunding, from the private, the same thing. There's some rule. Also the manufacturing sector. Create enabling, but whether we know how to make use this sort of enabling condition to accelerate our business, our opportunity. There is really challenge. We need to learn. There is opportunity for you to learn. But I think the learning from this event may not be enough. I think we need to continue learning and dig out more information. This is not only for me to throw the question. You can talk to the panelists later on if you have any follow-up question in your respective area of interest. With that, I have a few more questions to the panelists. I think start from Indonesia, Bapak Iqbal Belatif. I think, can you also, from your own perspective, who could be the key champion to support the circular economy transition and acceleration in ASEAN? I'm just trying to find out, just from your own perspective, who could be the champion to accelerate circular economy in the region?
I think government may take a lead, policymakers. Yeah. From my presentation, I think we can see that in Indonesia, government has already taken its responsibility. We expect that from this will trigger the capital, the private sector will move on, right? So because if in terms of the economy, government spending only 15% of the economy, 85%, if you want to make it circular economy, then private sector should go. But the policymakers should have this in their mind but it's already in place for Indonesia and for ASEAN. I think from these 2 days discussions, we see that we're moving towards this. And also one thing, maybe Dr. Wong, that our colleagues also mentioned that about the WACAF and preparing the ecosystem, involving the retails. These are very important, and we have new instruments that we call cash wakaf link sukuk, linking the social finance to commercial finance. This is to actually actualize the potential of wakaf that we estimate is a huge amount annually spending in Indonesia. So this niche segment should, the policymakers should pay attention to this and then facilitate them to grow. Thank you.
Government play important role. We all hear that. Okay, good. Now, I start from Dr. Tengku Jahalan. Can you share who could be the champion to accelerate the climate, the circular economy in the region, from your perspective?
Right. So, for Malaysia, I think in the end, there cannot be just one. I think the topic also talks about the multi-stakeholder cooperation, and so it needs to be like a more holistic approach where all parties across the supply, across the CE value chain should play their role. That is also how, like in Malaysia, that's why we have policies that tackles on the manufacturing side. We have those that tackle solid waste management side. And we are also actually in the process of coming out with, I think yesterday was KPKT was informing that we are also developing a Circular Economy Act, as well as another policy to tie everything in together so that we don't have gaps in the value chain. So I would say that definitely the one is the government to enable the policies at the regional level. The government has to. I think we already have at the business level, we have the ASEBA, business conversations. We have government through platforms such as this platform and various other platforms. But I think we need to start talking about actions. Yes, just now we listened about the need to harmonize certain standards. We need to harmonize. We need to make trade of circular products better. So this cannot happen without government playing the leading role for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I just would like to hear the perspective from the private sector. Who could be the champion to accelerate or to scaling up this sort of circular economy in the region? Maybe just start from the Dato, maybe.
Thank you, Dr. I'm aligned with Dr. Tengku. It's the government should still take the primary lead, yeah, because number one, there is still a lot of awareness that needs to be built up. Number two, capacity. Capacity building needs to be done on an industrial scale, right? And because it is easy to confuse normal SME or MSME against what a circular economy enterprise is supposed to create. The value creation itself, yeah, from the circular economy, it should not be diluted or should not be confused. Organizations like Maybank, we will play our part, yeah, but I think that the primary role should still be on the government. There's been a lot of blueprints already up, even at the regional level. ASEAN itself has come up with the circular economy blueprint and so on. So the government should still be the champion, and organizations like Maybank will do our part. We will be supportive as much as we can. There can be incentives. Okay? This is what we look forward to. There can be incentives to support the circular economy industries.
Thank you very much, Dato. Now, just would like to hear from VC. So, who could be the champion from your perspective?
I think sandwiched between two public representatives, it's probably a trick question, but jokes aside. I think we truly believe everybody should champion this. The only differentiation is we all play a different championing role. Again, no pun intended. It truly is a circular thing, right? Like here at Gobi, we believe money follows policies, and policies create opportunities for people to build and for companies to build. And these companies, they chase funding. So really it's a flywheel, right? So I think on the government side, on the public side, you know, forward-thinking, updated regulation, framework, creating incentives for the local markets to build is very, very important, especially in the CE space. And on the builder side, on the founder side, for companies and operators to build towards this mutual and shared goal of sustainability is incredibly important. And on the capital side, like ourselves, understanding, again, I cannot emphasize this enough, the importance and the economical value that comes with investing in CE, it allows us all to sort of like collaborate in driving this forward. So everybody is responsible in driving CE.
Whether the panel answer our question correctly or something to add more. I think this is to reflect the relationship circular economy to all of us. Exactly what is the panel just want to point out. Even I try to ask about the champion. But all in all, circular economy comes in different form, in different level, involve many stakeholders, many players. I think this is about the shared vision of circular economy for all of us. Share mission, share responsibility. That's what panel want to highlight. And with that, I think it's how to make that share work. There must be someone that lead. The government can lead. The private sector can lead. Who else can lead? I think the question of leadership. So leadership, it's really in all of us. So we need to generate more leadership. And with that, I would like to thank to all panelists, and this leadership will continue to grow for the circular economy in the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Dr. Wong for moderating the session, and all our distinguished panelists for sharing your insights on the circular economy and who should be leading the forefront of circular economy transition here in ASEAN. Thank you very much for your input, ladies and gentlemen. Allow them to take a group photo on stage. All right, next, ladies and gentlemen, we'll proceed with a Slido session. And to brief all of you on how this session will be, let us invite from Stockholm Environment Institute, Chloe Pattinger. Please welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the excellent panels this morning. That was so interesting and insightful. So before we wrap up today, we are going to have a brief Slido session. So if you recall, in the morning, Saida presented our Team Europe initiative projects, which have already started, and to help guide us on as we embark on these initiatives, we could really do with your help in the audience. So if you could all try and access this link. I think we had some issues yesterday. Maybe it needs to be a bit higher, if that's possible. Can everybody access it? Oh, it's all good? Okay. So the first question, okay, that's better. Thank you so much. So the first question, of course, we need to and we want to do everything. I think a theme of these 2 days has been the interconnectedness of all these different sectors and the role of multi-stakeholder action to facilitate that. But we also have to concentrate our efforts. So we would like to ask you, which of the following industries should ASEAN prioritize for regional cooperation and CE transition? So I'll give everybody a couple of minutes to read.
The upper top right is the number of people who answered, so you can determine that.
Okay. So we have waste involving solid waste, plastics, food waste, e-waste, agriculture, fast-moving consumer goods, consumer packaged goods, electronics, construction, textiles, and transportation and logistics. So I'll just give maybe 20 more seconds. So there's a very clear leader here in waste. And I think that is probably good news for GGI, because that will be exactly the topic of their projects. So that's certainly a priority we can see very clearly. But what we also want to be doing in our projects is looking into industries in different countries that can really drive forward transition. So perhaps it's waste, but maybe there are other industries that can really take it forward. So this just presents a first temperature check of the room, and we will be doing more in terms of bilateral action to try and see what else is really exciting and important out there. Okay, so I think we can move on to the next slide. So going into a little bit more detail now. Oh, forward. So which commodity groups should ASEAN be prioritizing for regional action? So we have, again, plastics and packaging, organics, food loss and waste, e-waste, critical minerals, metals and secondary materials, textiles, and construction and demolition waste. And I'll just give maybe 30 seconds. Everybody has a chance to digest and to vote. Okay, so again, maybe unsurprisingly, plastics and packaging is coming out very strongly as the leader there, but it looks like there's interest throughout all of these different commodity groups also. Okay, we have, I'll wait till we get to 50 people. Okay, all right, maybe we can have the next slide. So we would really like to know from you what support, knowledge, and tools are needed to support this transition. So we've talked a lot about financing, we've talked about policy at many different scales, we've talked about the role of banks. In terms of knowledge, what tangible things can be provided in these next couple of years, what is going to be most helpful? Financing, de-risking incentives, yes. We also have industry-specific CE action plans. So the industries we talked about before, is there more that needs to be done? Of course, we see, for example, in Malaysia, the manufacturing action plan. Do other countries also need to have these sectoral plans? Of course, we know about the importance of monitoring and measuring and the role of data. Regional guidelines, how can we enhance this, this regional focus? Okay, platforms for multi-stakeholder engagement, I don't see any votes here. Maybe the ACEF is already doing its job. Okay, so we have a couple of front runners, which is industry-specific CE action plans, financing facilities, de-risking instruments, of course, and quite a lot of interest across the different areas also. So operationalizing CE action plans, decentralization, monitoring, so basically everything. Okay, and the next slide. So now I'd like to take a few minutes just to open the floor. I don't know in the last panel whether everybody was tired, had enough, or maybe, but I'd like to provide one more chance just to ask, did we miss anything here? So what can we really be doing in this next period of time to support and accelerate the transition? So this is an open answer question, and I'll just give a few minutes to take some comments. And then if anybody from the floor would like to explain their answer, I think we can have one or two comments also. So the question is, what are the other priority areas that require urgent and coordinated action? Okay, market data transparency, market failure for certain materials, energy, incentive frameworks disincentivize linear economy. Not to call anybody out, but the person that talked about market failures, that sounds like quite an interesting one. Would they like to explain that, or we just leave it there? Okay, I see no hands, that's okay. Awareness, technology transfer, sanctions and laws, okay, so accountability, education, so a lot of these same themes that were coming up in the panels already. CE ambition that is not just recycling, I think that's been a very strong theme of the session. It's not just about waste and recycling. Upskilling, waste mafias. Okay, all right, so is there somebody from the floor that would like to explain their comment? I think everybody's either tired or shy. Energy polluter pays. Okay, so if there are no more comments from the floor, perhaps I will hand it back to the facilitator. On behalf of SEI, GGI, ACSDSD, thank you very much for participating in this Slido. It's been really helpful for us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Miss Chloe, for that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are moving towards the end of our day 2 here at ASEAN Circular Economy Forum, but not so fast. We have a closing remarks, ladies and gentlemen. And for our first closing remarks, let us invite the head of Environment Division on stage. Apologies, a slight change. We would like to invite the Executive Director, the head of ASDSD, Ambassador Paspon, to provide her closing remarks. Please welcome.
Hello. Okay. Distinguished participants, both in-house here in the hall as well as online, I, on behalf of the ASEAN Centre for Sustainable Development Studies and Dialogue, ACSDSD, and of course, we are the host of ASEAN Circular Economy Forum, as well as ASEAN Circular Economy Stakeholders Platform, together with organizers and partners. We are very happy to have all of you from day 1 to day 2. I think you all have made this forum a very possible one. And I just want to say that as we come to a close of this ASEAN Circular Economy Forum 2025, let us take a moment to reflect on what we have learned for the 2 days. The first day, we explore the state of play of the circular economy in ASEAN, understanding where we stand and where we are heading. We examine how resources, the use of resources in our region connects directly to ASEAN Vision 2045, and how innovation, green skills, and circular startup are unlocking the new value for the people, especially the people here in ASEAN. We are reminded to learn, unlearn, and be surprised, to challenge assumptions and embrace new possibilities for how we produce, consume, and cooperate. Today, on day 2, we build upon that foundation by asking, how do we accelerate this transition? Our first panel highlights priority areas for regional harmonized action, showing how data, metrics, and cross-border trade mechanism can make circular business models across ASEAN. The private sector reminds us that markets respond to clarity, clear signals, shared standards, and consistent policies are what turn good ideas into regional impact, and definitely avoiding silo thinking and silo management. Our second panel look at enabling environments, from innovative financing and green bonds to crowdfunding and policy frameworks that mature local innovation. We also heard powerful examples on how circular economy practices can strengthen communities, women empowerment, and cultural livelihood. As you know, in Southeast Asia, we have the local wisdom, local principles, and also the social values that we definitely value it. And this is showing that the circular transition is not just an environment agenda, but a human-centered one. Just like what ASEAN is exercising is on having people-centered ASEAN. So if I have to make one takeaway, I would say that for the 2 days that we are having this ASEAN Circular Economy Forum, partnership is certainly very important. Partnership is not supporting element, but it is the very engine of the circular economy transition in ASEAN. A truly inclusive circular economy must connect the top-down with bottom-up, regional strategies with local solutions, and policy frameworks with community-led innovation. Definitely, we have multi-stakeholders here: public sector, policymakers, private sector, academics, social entrepreneurs, local communities. You are all part of this. And with the partnership that we have, with the partnership that we can create, this will create innovation, upskillings, capacity building, transfer of necessary technologies, and all of this is related to empowerment. And one thing that nobody said, maybe is something that we from the ACSDSD have to think about, is also to make the partnership with centers of excellence here in ASEAN. Yesterday, we have had the ASEAN Centre for Green Transition for MSMEs, and the ASEAN Centre for Sustainable Development Studies, and also the Center of Excellence in Europe, I think is something that we can work on. And definitely, as we move forward, we have to keep positive mindset. Many have listened, so we have to listen to each other more. And this will really create the co-creation that many of the speakers have said for the past 2 days. And as Dr. Wong has indicated, the leadership is within all of us. We just need to work together with shared purpose, shared mission, and shared responsibility, and definitely with trust and confidence. I'm sure that with this, we will move forward to not to take home the only knowledge, but also the commitments that we have here today. And I will make an announcement as ACSDSD that this forum, the ASEAN Circular Economy Forum, as well as the ASEAN Circular Economy Stakeholders Platform, will continue. So we also will have to improvise, update it, upskill ourselves with all your comments and all your contribution. So with that, we will keep the dialogue ongoing and see you next year. Thank you very much. Oh, one thing, sorry. I also would like to thank you, all partners, in exploring this forum together with me. From the ASEAN side is the ASEAN Secretariat, Dr. Wong, Pak Kong, Madam Latifa, and all the Secretariat officials here. And I think I will have to connect with Connectivity Department as well, because there's an alignment on that. And from the EU side, E-READI, SEI, GGGI, Finland, Denmark, and GIZ. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ambassador Paspon. Ladies and gentlemen, next for the final closing remarks, let us invite the head of cooperation of the European Union delegation to ASEAN, Mr. Jerome Pons. Please welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Ambassador Paspon, Mr. Wong Sok, ladies and gentlemen, guests, colleagues, partners from the European Union. As we draw this forum to a close, I'm honored to reflect on the discussion and engagement we have had surrounding the transition to circular economy within the ASEAN. Throughout this forum, we have seen a collaborative effort to accelerate this transition, emphasizing on green skills, innovative solutions, and investment, a theme that resonates with the EU Global Gateway Strategy, positioning circular transition as a cornerstone of shared and sustainable prosperity. From our opening remark delivered by the ambassador to the ASEAN to the insight shared in the panel, the message has been clear. The circular economy is no longer a concept, but it is a tangible opportunity for ASEAN and for its partners. We have moved beyond theory into actionable strategies and shared commitments. Today's discussion have highlighted the significance of multi-stakeholder partnership, policy dialogues, and resource mobilization. These components are crucial to fostering a regional approach to a circular, climate-neutral, and resource-efficient economy, reinforcing synergies between the EU and the ASEAN. Furthermore, the collaboration under the Team Europe, as you have seen on the logo here, exemplify the EU commitment to global partnership, particularly through the ASEAN EU-Denmark Circular Economy Team Europe initiative. This initiative focuses on regulatory framework and on fostering business innovation. This is to support ASEAN member states in developing policies and regulation that create an enabling environment for circular practices, and this is to drive innovation by connecting businesses and industry across the EU and the ASEAN, facilitating knowledge transfer and investment in circular technologies. This collaboration, alongside the effort from partners like Finland and Germany, underscore our collaborative resolve to advance the circular economy agenda across the ASEAN region. Aligning with the theme from the side event that was led by Finland and our ambassador to Malaysia, I extend gratitude toward our partners from Business Finland, the EU Circular Economy Research Centre, Sitra, and others for showcasing our circular business model can unlock new value across Southeast Asia. The energy, innovative ideas, and commitment witnessed here today signal a promising future for the ASEAN. And as we continue to navigate this journey, we shall emphasize on increased advocacy, policy support, and knowledge sharing to meet our goals and strengthen the partnership between the EU and the ASEAN. So thank you again for your participation. I look forward to seeing the fruit of today's discussion translate into impactful action in the region. Terima kasih.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jerome. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and delegates, if I may, to sum up the ASEAN Economic Forum 2025, these 2 days have reminded us that policy set the direction, the business drives the engine, innovation sparks progress, and communities keep us grounded. And when these forces align, we create not only circular systems, but inclusive and resilient societies as well. So, on behalf of the Malaysia as the chairman of ASEAN 2025, and also the ACEF organizing committee, we would like to express our sincere appreciation to all our partners, all our moderators, our speakers, and our panelists who have contributed your insights and your experience with all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the organizing committee. There we go. So now the conversation goes through you. Take back all the knowledge and the experiences that have been shared with you and spread it with your own network and implement it wherever you can. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. It is my greatest honor being your MC throughout these 2 days here at ASEAN Circular Economy Forum 2025. This is me, Ifran, your MC, signing off. Thank you, Assalamualaikum, and a very good afternoon ahead. All right, just a gentle reminder from the MC, ladies and gentlemen, there's an evaluation form. Here's the QR code that we are displaying on the stage. So if you have any feedbacks with regards to the events on how we can improve further in terms of content or any ideas that you would like to contribute, do scan the QR code right in front and give us your feedback. We will take all those feedback in and see how we can improve ourselves in the future. All right. And secondly, the tags, just a gentle reminder on the tags, do return your blue tags at the registration counter. All right. And after this, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite everyone for lunch. We have prepared a delicious lunch once again at Hall 8C. Hall 8C. So please proceed for lunch and do your networking over there. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of the day.